All right, well, welcome everyone to the May pre-agenda meeting. I will turn it over to Director Brooks.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Morning, everyone. Just have a few updates for you all about some of the projects we're working on. So our city comprehensive plan update. We've had a number of people, over 260 people so far have completed the survey that we have on our website, and then we had approximately 230 people participate in the listening sessions that we had a couple weeks ago. And while those in-person sessions have concluded, all of the activities are available on our project website, and we are encouraging community members to complete the survey, continue to map their ideas, and as I've asked before, please help us spread the word. You all have a postcard in front of you. We are continuing to meet. We're still in that listening stage of the process, and so we are attending local events. So we're trying to go where people already are. You can find out more information about the events that we'll be attending. These are pop-up meetings. They're on our events website, events page on our website, and we also have a project timeline there. We were at Holaroo this last weekend, as well as the Market Square Farmers Market. This weekend, we have Open Streets and another parade and festival. And again, so we have a number of events that we'll be going to over the next couple of months. We have also opened a What's Next Knoxville headquarters. It's at 30 Market Square. Community members can stop by and speak directly with project team members from either our staff or city staff. We'll have office hours every Tuesday. Again, we recommend that everybody check the website to make sure we want to, these might change depending on a couple different factors. But so essentially we'll be there Tuesday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in both in May and June. And then, as I mentioned, we will attend as many of the Market Square Farmers Market on Saturday as we can. The Unified Development Ordinance that we're working on for the county, we're continuing to work with the consultants to review the comments that we've received to date and drafting articles for this new UDO. We have our consultants in town this week, and so we'll be working with them through Thursday. We are currently making adjustments to district articles 4 through 7, again, based on that feedback that we've received from the public, but also from Planning Commission, County Commission, and our technical and community advisory committees. We are refining landscaping, open space sign, and stormwater articles, and we'll share this material later this summer. We do not yet have a specific date, but plan to do an in-person workshop with Planning Commission later this summer. We will share that as soon as we have it. Our goal is to have a full draft document this fall, and we're planning to hold public sessions to receive additional feedback at that time. I did want to take a moment to mention we've had a couple staff changes. So Alex Zindel, who many of you might know, has worked in our information services team for the last 21 years. He has left to pursue a new opportunity at KGIS. And while we are sad to see him go, we're excited to see him pursue this new opportunity, and excited as well to have him working at KGIS because we do work with them on a regular basis. We have also hired a new assistant planner. I think she's here, Ellie Bernstein. She's here. So in anticipation of, I'm not sure if Jake's here. I don't think Jake came down today, but Jake has been an assistant planner with us for the past couple of years, and he will be leaving to pursue his graduate degree later this summer. And Ellie starts full-time with us later this month. That's all I have. Jump right in?
Yeah, please.
Okay, we can jump right into agenda items. So we'll start off with number 38.
This case is for a 7.24 acre parcel on the south side of Pine Grove Road that is a half mile to the west of the road's intersection with Strawberry Plains Pike. The request is to rezone from agricultural to planned residential with a density of up to 9 dwelling units per acre. The subject property has been used as a horse farm since at least the early 2000s. In terms of changing conditions, there has been an increase in commercial and office development along Strawberry Plains Pike to the east. A 27-unit single-family subdivision was completed across the street in 2024, and a 73-unit single-family subdivision was completed in 2012. However, the area to the west of the subject property has remained very stable since the 1960s and has a rural character featuring single-family houses on large lots and agricultural uses. The nearby subdivision with RN1 zoning was developed at a density of 3.04 dwelling units per acre. The subdivision across the street was rezoned to plan residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre in 2021 prior to the adoption of the comprehensive plan, and it was developed at a density of 3.91 dwelling units per acre. It is the only PR zoning on Pine Grove Road. The intent of the planned residential zone emphasizes that development shall be compatible with surrounding or adjacent zones. The requested density of 9 dwelling units per acre is not compatible with the agricultural zoning on all abutting parcels, and it is significantly more intense than the zoning along this section of Pine Grove Road, which includes properties zoned A, RA, PR up to 5 dwelling units per acre, and RN1. The section of Pine Grove Road to the west of the subject property exclusively features agricultural zoning and exhibits a rural development pattern. There are multiple large lots with active agricultural uses within a quarter mile, including a 9.5-acre parcel that abuts the subject property to the southwest. The requested density of 9 dwelling units per acre would be a visual outlier and would be incompatible with the area's rural character and agricultural uses. This density does not align with the Comprehensive Plan's Implementation Policy 2 that development is consistent with existing community character. Access is only available via Pine Grove Road, an unstriped local street with a pavement width that varies from 15 to 17 feet along the subject property. Per the recommendation of Knox County Engineering and Public Works, any development on the property at a higher density than what is currently permitted under its A zoning would require widening Pine Grove Road from the development entrance to its intersection with Strawberry Plains Pike to the east. Staff are recommending approval of the PR zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, subject to 2 conditions. The recommended density reflects the density of the 2 subdivisions and the smaller lots along Pine Grove Road. The recommended density could yield up to 29 units, while the requested density of 9 units per acre could yield up to 65. The rear section of the subject property is forested with mature trees, which serve as a buffer from the agricultural uses on the abutting property and the houses along Callie Oglesby Lane. The recommended condition for this rezoning, that existing healthy trees be retained within the 35-foot peripheral setback, would preserve some of the property's rural character, provide privacy to neighboring property owners, and is consistent with the intent of the PR zone. As previously mentioned, Pine Grove Road is a narrow, unstriped local street. The recommended condition to improve Pine Grove Road from the access point of a future development to Strawberry Plains Pike, in accordance with requirements of Knox County Engineering and Public Works, would address transportation capacity concerns commensurate with future residential development. Are there any questions?
Seeing none, we will move to agenda item number 13. We have Director Ahrens here, as well as Zoning Chief Mark Reel.
Good morning. So this is the Kerbella's site up in South Knoxville. In the form-based code, this is coming to you as a level 3 alternative compliance, which by code is intended to allow developments in non-prohibited uses that would not otherwise be allowed under a strict interpretation of the form district regulations, but nevertheless comply with the intent of the applicable form district and plan. So this is coming to you because of site-specific topographical conditions and the property's unique characteristic as a large contiguous parcel zoned with both SW5 and SW6 districts, each with distinct visions, intents, and zoning ordinance requirements, which renders a strict interpretation not practicable. Accordingly, it's brought to you as a level 3 for you to evaluate. There are, I believe, 9 items that you use as part of the approval criteria, which are in the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Essentially, it's very big. It's a large site, 2 different zoning districts with somewhat different requirements. So how do you evaluate when there's 2 sets of rules? So hence the strict interpretation is not practicable.
So with the, I know you call them variances or deviation requests or whatever the technical term is. How many requests have they made on that with respect to that?
So there again, because we've got 2 different zoning districts, we can't really, we know that the lot is larger than both zones allow. But the siting is different based on the zoning district, so it's not like we can do a complete, full evaluation like we would for other projects.
So, I mean, with that review, is there any type of architectural review, or is it just straight form-based? If you meet it, you meet it, you don't, you don't? And then when they're not, they're just saying, we would like a variance or a deviation from the rules?
I think what they're trying to do is show that their development complies with the intent, the spirit and intent of South Knoxville, as opposed to going line by line as what meets and what does not meet. But all of the other items that they're still working through, like material selection, there's a whole section on sustainability that they're working through, which they're intending to comply with the code, because those are consistent between districts.
Very good. And so has your department or has the city actually taken a position of a recommendation, if you will, or are you just giving it to us to say, hey, you guys make your decision or make comments?
Well, we see this as a new type of housing. A lot of what we've seen down in South Knoxville is student housing. So this is over 55 mobile owners. And we see that they have worked with us and made concessions from what they originally were hoping to get. And so we think that with those, it warrants an opportunity to be heard by this board.
Got it. So I would just encourage all the commissioners to go down through and read those variance requests and research them if you like, and certainly ask questions on Thursday if you do have any specific questions about those requests. So
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, obviously, some of these are up for this level 3 alternative compliance review, but the ones that you were talking about that are not on here, those are still ongoing. So this project's not necessarily moving forward. We're just focusing on those level 3 ones that are impossible to cite because of the size of the.
That's correct.
Okay. So there's still the potential for a lot of things to change. It's just on these items where the form-based code just is not applicable because of the size of the pre-existing lot. Is
Right.
that?
I was just going to ask, I read it a little bit in the news, but I believe is the developer still having like community meetings with the South Knoxville group as well?
They have had meetings. I've attended one of them. I don't know if they have additional meetings planned or not.
Okay, I was just kind of curious what the status of those discussions were, but yeah, I'll research that. Thank you.
And I will say that they submitted revisions to us after the meetings with the neighborhood.
Okay.
And so I think from what I've seen and experienced, it appears that they're listening.
Thanks.
Thank you. So are all of the items in the report that say this will need alternative compliance review, are those still outstanding, or have any of those been resolved or revised since the report was prepared?
They're still outstanding.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? I guess we can move on to the next case.
Okay. We will turn the next couple over to Whitney Warner, number 32. It's a rezoning request.
Okay, so this is a rezoning request from A to RA on 1.11 acres on Michaels Lane, and this is near the intersection of Chapman Highway and John Sevier. So the request is for two non-conforming agricultural lots that are about half acres each. To go to RA, the RA zone allows houses on 10,000 square foot lots and duplexes as a use on review on 12,000 square foot lots. The adjacent property to the east was rezoned to RA in 2022, and the majority of the lots on Michaels Lane are agricultural, but they're non-conforming, less than 1 acre. And there's also currently 3 existing duplexes on the block. So this property does not have frontage on Michaels Lane. There's plats that show 12-foot unconstructed right-of-way extending from Michaels Lane. And these were created, or likely created prior to our subdivision regulations. So a new 25-foot wide access easement, which meets our current regulations, would have to be established through platting. And so the recommendation is to approve because it's consistent with the comp plan and surrounding area. Any questions?
Seeing none, we will move on to number 44.
So this request is for a 109 lot townhome subdivision on 13.91 acres. The density is 7.84 dwelling units an acre, and it's in the planned residential zone up to 8 dwelling units an acre. And this is just off of I-40 in Strawberry Plains Pike. So the internal streets will be 26 feet in width within a 40-foot right-of-way. There aren't any connections to adjacent properties. Part of this is limited to the roads being private roads. There are 3 zoning conditions on the property. One is for a traffic impact study, and the applicant, the only, I guess, real recommendation out of there was to verify site distance looking north, and the applicant has verified that. And the second zoning condition is a 35-foot non-disturbance buffer around the perimeter of the property, and that excludes the frontage. So there isn't any grading within this 35-foot peripheral setback. So there's some along the front, but that's allowed. And then the last condition is to have 1 level single acre lot. And it should be centrally located and accessible to the residents with a minimum of 8 native trees of the following species. So the park is 1 acre, and they've specified in a note on the site plan that they'll plant the required trees. The park is outlined in red here, and it's along the Strawberry Plains Pike's frontage. It is hidden behind the lots on Road C, and you can access it at this dead-end turnaround. So it's not meeting the centrally located requirement. And so while half of the park has been flattened from the grading plan, the other half is not, and has slopes exceeding 15%. The yellow here is natural grades that are between 15 and 25%. So the recommendation is to deny the concept and development plan because it's not meeting zoning condition 3, specifically the part about the lot being level and centrally located. Are there any questions?
Is the lot that's proposed for the park, is it exactly an acre in size right now as measured?
Yes, 1 acre.
Okay.
And just a clarification, I'm trying to catch up on the reading, but
Yep.
you'd mentioned that it's not level. I get that part of it's graded, part of it's not. Is the condition worded in a way that it has to be level?
Yes, it just said level, and I guess it's kind of up to interpretation of, what kind of slope is allowed and how much of that lot can be level. So we're saying that if only half of it is flat and the rest of it's greater than 15%, we don't think that meets the level requirement. That was these conditions were put on by county commission.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, just thinking about the level issue too, there's a lot of parks in the region that I think are great that aren't entirely level. So to me, that isn't a prerequisite for a effective park, but yeah, I understand that was a condition placed.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking because, I mean, I know this is in the county, but the thing that comes to my mind is a dog park down here, you know, near Old City, you know, and it's like, it's a dog park, but it's really just kind of the side of a hill, you know.
Morningside Park, Lakeshore Park, they're all very
Yeah, they've got
undulating.
slope to them, right? So, thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, we will move on to agenda item number 25. I will just note as Kelsey is hooking up her computer there, number 40, it is on your agenda here, but that item has been withdrawn at the request of the applicant. So we will, 40, yes. So we will not cover that one today.
All right, this is a request to rezone a roughly 16.24 acre property located on the southwest side of Pleasant Hill Road and east side of Kitts Road from agricultural to planned residential with up to 12 dwelling units an acre. Since the early 2000s, development in the surrounding area has remained largely unchanged. In 2020, a recycling and waste center was opened to the west, and the townhouse development to the southeast was built between 2003 and 2007. The area has otherwise remained stable with mostly single-family homes on large lots. Zoning in the surrounding area largely consists of commercial zoning concentrated along Andrew Johnson Highway, Asheville Highway, and Strawberry Plains Pike, and agricultural and low-density residential zoning along local streets. There's limited PR zoning concentrated on Strawberry Plains Pike to the southeast. The subject property is designated TCMU, Town Center Mixed Use, in the Comprehensive Plan, which is intended to promote large and compact walkable developments with employment, commercial, residential, civic, and supporting uses, and to promote connectivity with surrounding neighborhoods. The TCMU place type designation aligns with the East County Community Plan's overarching vision for the area. The East County Community Plan has identified the surrounding area as a rural crossroad due to the intersections of Asheville Highway, Andrew Johnson Highway, and Strawberry Plains Pike, which are designated as development corridors. Rural crossroads are development areas designed to create centers of community activity with housing, shopping opportunities, service businesses, and other amenities in close proximity and adjacent to the development corridors, which are roadways appropriate for a more intense development pattern. Though the subject property is within the identified rural crossroad buffer, it does not have direct access to any of the identified development corridors. The subject property only has access to two local streets, Pleasant Hill Road and Kitts Road. Both roads function similarly to collector streets by connecting two classified roads. However, Pleasant Hill Road is unstriped with pavement widths varying from 16.5 to 19 feet. At the proposed density, roadway improvements to Pleasant Hill Road would likely be needed to accommodate increased vehicular traffic associated with any potential development. Kitts Road is striped and wider than Pleasant Hill Road, but appears to have limited sight distance to the south due to a crest in the road. Both the East County Community Plan and the TCMU place type emphasize commercial, office, and mixed residential development. However, the PR zone does not allow mixed-use developments with commercial activities for developments under 20 acres, and the subject property is only a little over 16 acres. Furthermore, the subject property's lack of direct access to any of the nearby classified roads does not support the intent of the TCMU place type or the East County Community Plan, which emphasizes mixed-use development in this area largely due to the proximity of the triangle of classified streets. For these reasons, staff recommendation is to deny the planned residential zone with up to 12 dwelling units an acre. For some background on the request, planning staff did have a pre-application meeting with the applicants before the application was submitted. However, at the time of the meeting, negotiations with surrounding property owners were still under effect. At this time, the applicant has not submitted a new request for a different density, so another density has not been reviewed. Are there any questions?
I do, at the risk, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
I just
Commissioner Bick.
wanted to confirm, looking at the map, right, like Kitts Road looks like it's effectively an extension of Strawberry Plains Pike. Is that the right way to? I know it's a different road, but looks like Strawberry Plains Pike crosses over and becomes Kitts Road. Is that the way to think about it?
To the north, or I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at, looks like in yellow writing, Strawberry Plains Pike, and then to the north, that same road becomes Kitts Road.
Oh, I see. Yes, so there is a light at that intersection, and that separates Strawberry Plains Pike and then continues north to just be Kitts Road, a local street.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
So I think I had seen some information, because you had questioned, I guess, some of the site distance and things like that. Was there, and this might be a question for Mr. Elliott, was there some certification of site distances and widths and things like that I see?
Yes, the applicant's engineer did do an analysis of the access point, and he wrote us a letter saying he could obtain site distance with some work within our right-of-way.
Okay, good. So that potentially answers that question. But I do have another question. And just looking at our new handy book here. So this request is for planned residential up to 12 dwelling units an acre in town center mixed use, right? Which is partially related. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
I guess my question would be, I also see town center mixed use as RB general residential is directly related, which allows up to 12 units by acre by right. I guess I'm trying to designate the difference. I mean, I think we would all certainly rather see something in planned residential versus general residential because we get another look at it. So that's my only question, I guess, is we have a zone by right that's directly related at 12 units, and we are recommending denial on planned residential at 12 units an acre. Does that make sense? I mean,
The applicant didn't request RB, and RB they did not request RB. They requested the planned residential, and I'm assuming the big question for the applicant, but that they could cluster in the planned residential zone. They wanted, instead of being limited to. Anyway, it would be a question for them about what exactly they want to do.
totally fine. Just
If they're going to do apartments or if they're going to do
right.
single family.
And I have no idea what their plan is. So I just curious on the pure density side is the only reason I was bringing that up. That's all. The only question I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. We will move on to the next item.
Okay.
35.
This is a request to rezone a roughly 20.56 acre, 75 lot planned subdivision off of Tipton Station Road from planned residential up to 3.7 dwelling units an acre to planned residential up to 4 dwelling units an acre. The surrounding area features single-family and townhouse subdivisions and large rural lots. The subject property abuts South Doyle High School to the east and is roughly a half mile to the west, is Bonnie K. Elementary and the Howard Pinkston Greenway, which connects to Howard Pinkston Library and the French Memorial Park to the southwest. The subject property is designated suburban residential on the future land use map, which is described as areas appropriate for single-family residential development with lot sizes generally less than 1 acre. The SR place type allows consideration of the PR zone with up to 4 dwelling units an acre. Zoning in the surrounding area has gradually transitioned from agricultural to residential, with zones such as planned residential with up to 3 to 5 dwelling units an acre and RA low-density residential. In August 2023, a rezoning application from agricultural to planned residential up to 5 dwelling units an acre was submitted for a roughly 20-acre parcel. Planning staff and Planning Commission recommended approval of the application for up to 5 dwelling units an acre. However, the County Commission has final approval of all rezoning applications and lowered the approved density to PR up to 3.7 dwelling units an acre, citing that a lesser density was more compatible with the surrounding development. A development plan for 74 detached residential lots was later approved on the subject property in January 2024, and the final plat for the Sycamore Estates subdivision was approved in April 2025. Outside of the creation of the Sycamore subdivision, development trends in the area have remained stable with some sporadic residential construction. As such, there has not been a substantial change in conditions to warrant an increase in density at this location. Staff recommendation is to deny the PR zone with up to 4 dwelling units an acre because there has not been a substantial change in conditions since this previous rezoning application. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Just curious from a procedural standpoint. And I didn't look back at the August 2023, but if the staff, I guess if staff's approval was to, or if staff's recommendation was to approve in August 2023, we would have looked at the conditions at that time and recommended, right? And so are we, and again, I'm just asking, are we saying that county commission's decision set the bar? Like changes the staff's recommendation? It seems weird to me that in August 2023, we thought the conditions would have supported the 5. I understand the county commission didn't agree, but did that necessarily change staff's opinion?
So changing conditions are something that we evaluate with all rezoning requests. And since then to now, the only change in conditions since 2023 has been the establishment of this subdivision. And because nothing has substantially changed since then, our recommendation is to deny the current request.
But our recommendation originally was 5, right?
Yes, that's
I'm
correct.
just, okay,
Yes,
I'm just.
that's correct.
Yeah. I just am trying to come to my head how our recommendations could change when
Change in condition was commission's name. 3.7 is the.
okay, so that was the only change in
So
condition,
the new
okay,
condition is 3.7 is.
okay, so
And ours
nothing,
is a recommendation to you all, and you all
Okay.
can make a different recommendation if you'd like to county commission.
and is that, I mean, ordinarily, is county commission's decision something that we're supposed to look at to decide whether the conditions in the area support something? I'm not trying to say that, I'm not deliberating this, I'm just curious. Like, it seems to me like if we looked at the area and staff did their analysis and they said 5 was appropriate and county commission disagreed, I don't see why that necessarily has to change staff's opinion, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all very subjective.
Yeah, that's,
So, but that's why we're here as a board, we evaluate all that. And
yeah,
the staff does a great job of presenting their
yeah,
recommendation to us, and we can present that or a different one to county commission.
right, okay.
Did you have a question?
Thanks. What does the dotted blue line represent?
That is a blue line stream that runs through the property.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can move on to agenda item number 36.
Okay. This is a request to rezone the front portion of 0 Strawberry Plains Pike and the western portion of 7801 Strawberry Plains Pike from agricultural to CA general business. The rezoning request requires a plan amendment from the suburban residential and rural conservation place types. The plan amendment request is for the CMU corridor mixed-use place type on the front portion of 0 Strawberry Plains Pike in the entirety of 7801. The remaining approximately 12.5 acres of 0 Strawberry Plains would retain the rural conservation place type and the hillside protection designation. Commercial development in the surrounding area has largely been concentrated near the I-40 Strawberry Plains Pike interchange to the west and Asheville Highway to the east, except for one pickleball facility that opened roughly 360 feet west of the subject property in November 2024, and a small multi-tenant commercial building established in February 2025 on the CA-zoned portion of the property. Development trends along Strawberry Plains Pike outside of the commercial nodes have primarily been residential in nature, consisting of single-family, townhouse, and multifamily developments. Since the early 1980s, the surrounding area has experienced a gradual transition from agricultural zoning, with rezonings to commercial, industrial, and office zones concentrated near the commercial node at the I-40 interchange, and primarily residential rezonings to RA and planned residential with up to 5 to 8 dwelling units an acre focused along Strawberry Plains. With the exception of the subject property, the existing CA and planned commercial zoning outside of the established commercial node has primarily been developed with residential and civic uses, such as a church, single-family dwellings, and a mobile home park. The rural conservation place type is intended to conserve forested areas, ridges, and wetlands, and other significant natural features. In growth areas, corridors and pockets of rural conservation indicate places that may be subject to development similar to the adjacent place type, but where more compact and low-impact site design is expected. 0 Strawberry Plains Pike is a 13.88 acre parcel with steep slopes and mature forested growth, and the property at 7801 has some slopes in the rear of the lot. As such, the RC place type designation is not a result or an error in the comprehensive plan. 0 Strawberry Plains Pike is bifurcated by South Wooddale Road, and there is a roughly 4,000 square foot sliver of the parcel designated as suburban residential on the east side of South Wooddale Road. That is part of a cohesive section of the SR place type and is not the result of an error in the plan. The CMU place type is described as areas appropriate for moderate-scale walkable mixed-use development occurring along major corridors and recommends development with a walkable setting, wide sidewalks, and connectivity to nearby neighborhoods. The subject property has direct access to Strawberry Plains Pike, a minor arterial intended to support a more intense development pattern. However, this section of Strawberry Plains Pike is a 2-lane road with a residential development pattern that lacks pedestrian facilities. The increased residential development and minor increase in commercial development in the area, though notable, does not necessarily warrant a plan amendment to the CMU place type at this location. The subject property is removed from the nearby established nodes of commercial and office development, and as previously mentioned, is located along a section of Strawberry Plains Pike that has a primarily residential character. Furthermore, there has not been an introduction of new utilities or roads that would make commercial and mixed-use development more feasible at this location. For these reasons, staff recommendation is to deny the CMU place type and to deny the CA general business zone because it is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Are there any questions?
Quick question. So there's a commercial business there now? Or do you know what that is?
Yes, so on the subject property that's already zoned CA, there is a multi-tenant business that has pool services and animal control services.
So they're just trying to expand it or absorb that and zone the property next door effectively?
Yes, in their plan amendment justification, they stated their intent was to expand that existing business.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. We will move on to number 37. Another rezoning.
So the case file is 5M26RC. This is a 1.24 acre parcel on Barnett Creek Road in the county close to the city border. The request is to rezone from agricultural to planned residential up to 2 dwelling units per acre. The county area is generally zoned agricultural, and in the city it's zoned RN1 single family residential. Nearby CA zones are legacy zoning and do not necessarily represent the existing land uses. PR would be an outlier in this segment of Barnett Creek Road. As you can see in the aerial image, the area is wooded and hilly. There have been no significant changes to this area, either in terms of private development or public improvements over the past 20 years. Low-density residential and agricultural development are the predominant land uses. The area is designated with the rural conservation place type, with the intent to preserve the forested areas. Although the place type allows the consideration of the PR zone at 2 dwelling units per acre, the PR zone is typically intended for larger sites. The property lies within the urban growth boundary, which encourages development in areas with adequate roads, utilities, school, drainage, and other public infrastructure. The infrastructure of this area renders this property less suitable for rezoning. There are no sanitary sewer connection available in this vicinity. Barnett Creek Road, although it's classified as a minor collector, is unstriped and only 15 to 70 feet wide, and there are no sidewalks or nearby transit connection. The nearest schools are more than 3 miles away. Staff recommends denial of the PR zone for the following reasons. There have been no significant developments or infrastructure improvement in this area. Because of the narrow road and the lack of sewer connection, this reasoning would be inconsistent with the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Policy 9 to coordinate infrastructure improvement with development. And lastly, the 1.24 acre parcel is small for the planned unit development intended by PR, with a 35 feet peripheral boundary which limits the developable area. I would say that this request met some criteria of the rezoning, but ultimately we recommended denial because it does not meet all the criteria.
Doesn't look like we have any questions. Okay, thank you, Samuel.
I have a couple of updates on a couple of my cases. So item 6, rezoning for P25RC, we have recommended denial, but we're not covering this now because the applicant has requested a 90-day postponement. So we can look into that in August before the case is heard. Item 45 for F26TP, it's a 36-unit townhouse development along Middlebrook Pike. We posted a staff report recommending a 30-day postponement at the request of the applicant, and this was to verify one of the conditions of the suite rezoning. The condition was to submit a phase 1 study to TDAC and adhere to all requirements of their assessment before the case is heard by the Planning Commission. After we post our staff report, we learned from TDAC that they do not review these studies unless the site is included in their grant programs, and this site is not listed in their official brownfield sites. The applicant has completed both phase 1 and phase 2. A phase 2 study concluded that everything is acceptable in the areas they have collected the samples from, but it recommended additional studies within the building location. Right now, we are working on a staff report with a condition for additional studies for each individual building pad, and we hope to have a revised staff report before the meeting.
Any questions for Samuel? Now we'll cover agenda item number 26 is for L26RZ and number 42 is 5R26RZ.
So this is 4L26RZ. This case was reviewed previously, but the request was postponed and then revised, so we'll have a quick refresher. This case is for a 6.95 acre parcel on the south side of Tipton Station Road, east of Newbert Springs Road intersection, and on the east side of Sane Lane. The request is to rezone from agricultural to planned residential with a density of 2.3 dwelling units per acre, which is down from the previous request of 4 dwelling units per acre. In terms of changing conditions, properties across Tipton Station Road from the subject property with direct access to West Governor John Sevier Highway that are in the traditional neighborhood place type designation have been approved for rezonings and planned development of residential subdivisions. For the residential rezonings that have occurred there recently, the Knox County Commission has conditioned exclusive access onto West Governor John Sevier Highway in order to preserve rural character and maintain traffic safety to the south where the subject property lies. Here in the comprehensive plan map, you can see that the traditional neighborhood designation is to the north, and that TN designation is intended for a mix of housing ranging from single-family to townhouses and small multifamily buildings in a walkable block pattern. The subject property is at the edge of a large area of the rural conservation place type, which differs greatly from the TN to the north. It's intended to conserve forested areas, ridges, wetlands, and other significant natural areas. In the aerial map, you can see that this rural conservation area is comprised of large agricultural and rural residential lots among forest, farmland, and stream beds that have remained unchanged for decades. The subject property is almost entirely comprised of mature forest. Staff are recommending approval of the PR zone up to 2.3 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, subject to 3 conditions. The residential density could be a visual outlier along this rural section of Tipton Station Road, and while there is new PR development to the north, landscape buffering was required along that street face to preserve the rural character along Tipton Station. That being the case, staff recommends the first condition that at least 50% of the subject property be left as undisturbed natural open space to preserve some of the rural character and scenic assets of the area in a manner consistent with the intent of the rural conservation place type. The maximum density possible with the requested rezoning on this almost 7-acre lot is 15 units, which could produce an estimated addition of 176 vehicle trips per day. The safest way to access Tipton Station Road from the subject property is via Sane Lane to avoid the hazard of multiple access points in close proximity on that major collector street. So that's the basis for the second condition, that access to Tipton Station Road be made exclusively via Sane Lane. However, Sane Lane is an unstriped local street with 10 to 16 feet of pavement width. The third recommended condition is to improve Sane Lane in accordance with requirements by Knox County Engineering and Public Works to address transportation capacity commensurate with future development. And I believe they've already been in discussions about what those capital improvements would look like. Residents have expressed concern about sight distance from Sane Lane onto Tipton Station Road, and county engineering staff did verify that the minimum sight distance of 400 feet is being met in both directions at that location. So I'm happy to answer any questions. So the only change is that they reduced the density from 4 to 2.3. Our recommendation is the same.
Okay, I think we can move on to number 42.
This is 5R26RZ. This is a request to rezone from agricultural to planned residential on a 48.24 acre parcel with 2 access points to George Williams Road, which is a major collector street, northeast of its intersection with Fox Road. The parcel also has access to Triplet Lane to the north, which is a local residential street. The request that we evaluated was for 5 dwelling units per acre, but at the meeting it appears that they may be revising their request to 3 dwelling units per acre, which staff have not formally evaluated. This property has the rural conservation place type, which is intended to conserve forested areas, ridges, wetlands, and other significant natural areas by clustering development and minimizing land disturbance. Generally, these areas conserve between 50 to 70% of a site as natural open space. The maximum PR density that can be considered in the RC place type is the original request of 5 dwelling units per acre. This would have yielded 241 units on a property of this size, and at 3 dwelling units per acre, it would yield 144 units. In growth areas, corridors, and pockets of rural conservation indicate places that may be subject to development similar to adjacent place types, but where more compact and low impact design is expected, such as you see in the bottom left-hand corner of this slide. There has been recent residential development in this area, specifically with the Foxborough Hills subdivision to the west. and 4 new single-family lots next to the subject property's eastern access point on George Williams Road. However, these changing conditions do not necessitate a residential rezoning on the subject property, which has vastly different transportation impact considerations. The Foxborough Hills subdivision doesn't access George Williams Road. It has access on Fox Road near the Kingston Pike Commercial Corridor and a highway on-ramp. It also is apparent in this aerial map that the adjacent Foxborough Hills subdivision began construction before the comprehensive plan was adopted. That property was given the rural conservation place type designation as well, because at the time it was entirely forested with steep slopes, as shown in the upper left image. Had it been subject to the 50% conservation standard, the entire parcel would not have been cleared, as is the case now. This is what the RC place type is intended to protect against. The applicant claims that their intent is to conserve the existing farm. There is no way to verify that that would be the case, as this rezoning request is for the entire property. But if they were to conserve the farm, it comprises a little over half of the subject parcel, meaning that the area to be developed would not be the cleared fields on flatter ground. It would be the mature forest in the hillside protection area on the lower west side. This is the type of land the RC place type is intended to conserve. The subject property has 3 access points, and all of them are challenged with either traffic capacity, topography, or site distance constraints that do not support a residential rezoning. The property has a flag stem access approximately 25 feet wide to Triplet Lane to the north, which is a narrow, unstriped residential street. The other 2 access points lead to George Williams Road to the south. The western access to George Williams, though it does have adequate site distance, is marked by steep topography, including areas that exceed a 40% slope, as shown in the hillside protection image in the lower right side. It would require extensive clearing and grading to provide access there. The eastern access point is located where there is limited site distance to the east from both a horizontal and vertical perspective, as determined by county engineering. These access conditions do not support more intensive residential rezoning. The applicant has used the argument that the entire lot could be legally logged, but a residential rezoning significantly increases the motivation to clear what remains of natural areas on this site, especially if those areas conflict with the only viable access point for a large residential development. Staff are recommending denial in this case because it is incompatible with site constraints and inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Access to the parcel lacks capacity, as with Triplet Lane, site distance, as with the eastern George Williams Road point, or conflicts with the intent of the rural conservation place type, as with the hillside protected area at the western George Williams access. A density of 5 dwelling units per acre would yield a daily traffic impact of 2,267 trips, whereas a density of 3 dwelling units per acre would yield an average of 1,411 daily trips. Yes, this property is in the planned growth area, which encourages a reasonably compact pattern of development in coordination with the provision of adequate roads, drainage, and other infrastructure services. And it's staff's determination that the subject property does not have adequate road access to make such a significant increase in residential density reasonable. I'm happy to answer any questions.
On the western road access, I guess, potential where there's some steep terrain, that's like a gully, I'm guessing? We don't think a culvert could suffice to cross that, or?
It's the determination that this area here comprises about 50% of the site. And so that being the natural area remaining, in addition to the steep topography,
right,
and hillside protection guidance, that it would conflict with the RC place type and implementation policy 7 to disregard it.
All right, thanks.
So my question, I guess, we're talking about a rezoning at this stage, right? I mean, it's not the concept plan. The concept plan is where that 50 to 70% would actually happen. Is that accurate? Or?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm curious. I'm struggling or not deliberating, because we can certainly talk about it on Thursday, but the RC, it does encourage, the conservation, but it also allows up to 5 units an acre. What, can you help me understand why you just said straight out denial versus a lower density per acre?
Yeah, it's really the access constraints. So obviously, Triplet Lane is not a viable access point for that kind of residential density or any real residential density. The eastern access point has site distance constraints, and it's fairly narrow here as well. The most viable access point would necessitate extensive clearing and grading, which would be in conflict with the intent of the RC place type. So it's because of the access, not necessarily density.
And I guess this is another question for engineering too, did I see some response or from the applicant about site distance again on this one, or information with that?
Yes, their surveyor again evaluated the access point and provided us with a line of sight profile that shows they meet the minimum required site distance.
And that's for which? For
That
what?
the western access point.
Okay, so they can access it safely, I guess is what they're saying.
Yes, they meet the minimum.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
I just have I'm very familiar with this farm. So my question is, the western part that would be the driveway, like when you say that they have to clear too much, most of those trees are covered in kudzu and half of them are dead. So do you all take anything like that into account? Because they need to be cut down anyway for fear of falling.
So the rural conservation place type is designed for the natural remaining areas. So that's what we look at. This is existing tree canopy here that comprises about 50% of the site versus the open farmland, which presumably would be preserved anyways if that's the intent of the applicant. That's certainly, the condition of the forest is certainly something Planning Commission is welcome to consider in your decision.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, let's say it remains agricultural, the owner would be allowed to cut those trees down, correct?
I mean, technically logging is permitted on any parcel in the county, so that could be used for any development request.
Okay.
I would say that the revenue generated from a residential development would motivate logging more than just logging.
But I think what you're talking about is more diseased and dead trees. They can take those down also, not necessarily from a logging operation, but
correct.
Which the seller is probably inclined to do. Yeah, because they can cause a lot of damage if they fall. Any other questions?
I have a quick question, just out of curiosity. The what did we call it? The flagpole that goes out to is it Triplet? So it's 25 feet wide. What do we have specific criteria that like says that wouldn't be viable as the only access, or is it more of a?
I think that would come down more to like a development plan evaluation. It's not sufficient access for, a significant increase in residential development there. And yeah, isn't really viable. So I think during the development plan stage, if it were to get to that point, the George Williams access would be the only real viable option.
But I guess what I'm saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, but but that's more of just a subjective thing. I mean, we don't have like a specific criteria that says if this number of cars is going to cross it, you need 2 subdivision entrances or.
So an access easement cannot serve more than 5 lots or more than 10 dwelling units.
But is that an access easement? It looks to me like it's actually part of the property.
We cannot develop a right-of-way there because it does not have the required width. It can only be developed as an access easement with a maximum of 5 lot and maximum of 10 dwelling unit.
Yeah, the flag stem itself is only 25 feet wide.
Okay.
Director Elliott, do you have a comment?
Yes, the subregs would define the design criteria for that access, and it wouldn't meet, it would need numerous variances to be used as access to this development.
Thank you. All right. We have plenty of discussion points for Thursday, sorry. Does anybody else have any comments or questions, or?
Yes,
we do have
sir.
one more? Yes, Karen.
The nominating committee, we have came to a conclusion who we want to nominate, if you would like me to.
Does that, Amy, is that at the full commission meeting? Yeah,
Wait till
we'll cover
Thursday.
that at the full. Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Yep, gotcha.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other comments or lights, we are adjourned. Thank you.